Hello, everyone. My name is Ifeoluwa Babalala Tokilesho. This is Inspire a PhD, a podcast that puts a name, face, and voice to the experiences of PhD graduates. Here we speak with graduates of PhD in different disciplines and fields, and we would like them to, in their own voice, describe what PhD is and what their experience was. We hope to really inspire current and prospective PhD students in their journey, in their studies, in their goals and their desires to be PhD holders. Today, I have someone here in this episode. He's going to give us some background, his academic background and all, but I'm just going to say that it's a privilege to know him. We are in the same field. He's a graduate already. I'm still in this program, but he has a PhD in chemical engineering. He has done, great research, which is going to talk to us about it. And it's a great honor to have Dr. Chinedu Okeke here. I would allow him to just give us a brief introduction about himself. So, Dr. Okeke, over to you.
Thank you, Ife, and I'm really happy to be here. So I'll just give a brief intro of my academics pursuit. So I had my undergraduate program in chemical engineering at the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, after which I still had a master's degree in the University of Lagos, still on chemical engineering, then a PhD degree in the University of Toledo, still chemical engineering. So
wow, triple major. Which countries did you have? Just for the purpose of our listeners that do not know where these universities are.
Okay, so my undergraduate degree and master's degree was in Nigeria, while my PhD degree was in the US, as I said, University of Toledo.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to just ask that, at what point did you know that you were going to do a PhD?
Okay, so growing up, while in high school, my siblings and neighbors in the where I grew up, they have this nickname for me, which was professor or prof. So when I started my undergraduate program, right then I knew I was going to get to the PhD level. But after I completed my undergraduate program, my mind was kind of shifted to getting a job. So it was after working for like a year plus, I started dreaming about taking a master's program, tried UK, Canada. It didn't work out as I expected, then Unilag. But at that point, we had a turnaround. My major reason was more because I know as a PhD graduate, chances of getting a job, then I was looking at Nigeria, chances of getting a job in Nigeria will be much higher in the academic field. So that was really what prompted my desire to pursue a PhD program.
And so getting an admission into the US, how was it like? How many attempts did you have to apply to different universities, or was it just that one and that you got admitted into, that you applied to?
Yeah, so my case is really unique because, as I said, after I worked for some time and started design to pursue master's degree and PhD program, I already bought a form from University of Lagos for PhD. I've already been accepted into the program.
Wow.
While I was working in the bank, I had this colleague of mine, because I published a book, my first book, Career People, then So he saw the book. He was like, oh, he has a younger brother that is also studying chemical engineering, but he was in his third year. So it was like, Chinedu, can you be a mentor to him? That I'll like you to keep in touch and encourage him. I was like, okay, I can do that. So he gave me his brother's number. Then a particular time I saw they were using BlackBerry Messenger.
Yes.
I looked at his DP. He had this emoji of a plane, airplane. I was like, Amobi, why an airplane? What's happening? It was like, oh, I'm leaving for the US. I'll leave for the US for my master's program. I was like, which school? He said University of Toledo. So I became so interested. He gave me all the tips I needed, what my GRE score should look like. And I got back immediately. I started the application process. So that was the only school I applied to in the US. I also had the University of one other school, but I didn't complete the process. I stopped because they wanted me to contact a supervisor before I can apply. So when I noticed for University of Toledo, I'm able to apply without meeting any supervisor, I went ahead and I got the admission. So just one school in the US.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a very interesting story. Yeah. Just one attempt, and that was it. You had your motivation, by seeing somebody else do it, and you also, took that step, and then you got it. That's very great. So what about your research area? I mean, what was your research in during your PhD? Yeah, so, was it also related to your master's program?
No, it wasn't related to my master's research. Well, my master's thesis was on modeling and simulation study on the fate and effect of produced water on marine environment. So it looked petroleum engineering kind, but more modeling. Then for PhD, my dissertation was on effect of 2D nanomaterials on oxygen permeation, oxygen permeability. So there I worked with 2D materials like graphene oxide, and I was able to attach small molecules to the surface like fatty acid, polybutadiene. So the aim was to reduce oxygen permeation through your plastic bottles, what you use for water packaging or your carbonated drinks. So that was what my thesis was on.
That sounds very interesting. Wow. Can you just give us like a timeline of from when you got into the US and you started your PhD till when you completed your thesis? Did you have to take courses? Did you have to transfer courses? At what point did you start research in full?
Oh, okay. So for the PhD program, I started in August 2016. So for the department, then we had this seminar with professors in the department where they shared their research areas with us, and we're given a form where we have to pick our top 3 supervisors. Then there was also a coursework component to it. So that first semester, I had like thermodynamics, advanced thermodynamic class. I had transport phenomena, and I'm missing one. Yeah, I had like 3 courses, 9 units. Then the coursework continued too. Probably till my 4th year, I still had some coursework. But coursework is not so in all schools. Some schools could require just maybe 16 unit coursework, some 24 unit coursework, some 30 unit coursework. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. So did you feel what was there? What do you think about the educational system from where you were coming from, which is Nigeria, and comparing that to the educational system here in the US? Are there differences? Are there similarities?
Yeah, there is differences. One being that you're able to approach your professors if you have any concern. You can boldly walk up to a professor and say, "Oh, please, I didn't understand what you said then." But while in Nigeria, such will even cross your mind to meet a professor. You have to look for solutions yourself. And the way exams are conducted is really another difference. For most of the exams I did were open book exams. So professors don't expect you to memorize equations. But in Nigeria, even if the equation is like 5 feet long, you memorize them. I can even count the number of exams I did that were open book all through both from undergraduate to master, probably 2 or 3. But for PhD program, the only exam that was not open book was the green chemistry class. I did. That was the one that was closed book. So I saw that difference there. Also, the grading pattern too is really different. Here you have A starting from like 90%, and it's so easy to hit 90 and above. But in Nigeria, you have A starting from 70, and it's so difficult to hit 70. So there are really lots of also the way the professors they convey the information is really different too. So you find where professors will really take their time, teach you, give you homeworks that you get feedback on, give you quizzes, not just a final exam. And in some cases, you can have like 2 or 3 exams for the same course, which really was so helpful. But in my home country, Nigeria, you more like write just one final exam and maybe one quiz, some no quizzes, some homeworks, you might not get feedback, but it differs for schools anyway. So let me not speak for all universities in Nigeria. Some will definitely be different.
Yes. Now let's just go now into something not too academic. I know. You were married during your PhD program, right? Can you tell us about that?
Go ahead.
Because some people would say, "Oh, it's not easy to combine being married with a PhD." And can you speak to that? What was your experience? How did you manage this together?
Yeah, so I started my PhD program as a single. Then in 2018, I got married. That should be my 3rd year of the program. And I can tell you, PhD became sweeter after marriage.
Tell us about it.
Because as a single person with expectation of getting married, before marriage, you'll be thinking, how do I connect with ladies here? If you connect with one, you need to travel down, probably to another state or city to meet her. Plus all the burdens of research. You come home, you're thinking about that research work you need to complete. You're also thinking about, I need to chat up this lady. Then if the relationship ends, doesn't go as desired, it now becomes another state of sadness and stress along with the PhD program. So marriage really gave me a focus. I could go to the lab, come home, now I have someone I can share my thoughts with, I can share challenges with, someone I can say, please can you pray with me about this thing? I'm having this difficulty here. Financially too, it helped because as a single person, you foot all the bills, but as a married person, there's collective efforts too.
Yes.
So after marriage, the decision of my wife was for us to wait for some time before having kids. But then I was like, the mindset I have, oh, let's just start now. Why are we waiting? After I waited for 1 year, I was like, oh, thank God we waited. Because when baby finally came, it was another thing entirely. Even to take a pen and write is so challenging. But I was happy that 1 year wait now meant as baby came up, was already nearing graduation then. So marriage really helps. And statistics that I saw too online proves that married doctor students or those in a long-term relationship have a higher chance of completing a PhD program.
So every PhD student should just go and get married.
I didn't say so.
If that will increase our chances. But that's a very good one. So you're saying that you had your baby, you had a child while you were writing your dissertation. How was that for you? How did you manage that writing process with having a wife and a child?
Yeah, then the pressure was a lot more. Now, the PhD program, so usually the first 2 years are always the most challenging. And once you pass through that 2 years, third, fourth year might just be like a breeze. The final year, the whole load comes up again with high level of stress. And so at that time, it was really, really difficult. I just had to plan research work such that I just write, even if all I can write in a day is 1 page, just write, even if it's 1 paragraph, just write. And for me, don't expect all your thoughts to flow right from maybe your table of content, introduction, chapter. No, the idea can be recommendation, boom, introduction, part of it, boom, this, that, methodology. By the time you bring all the pieces together, it now makes complete sense. Like that's how I started, just bit, 1 page at a time. And you just have to keep motivating yourself, pushing yourself that I've started this race, I'm able to complete it. No matter what I've done, let me keep at it. So such perseverance made all those small work to become so big. I had over 240 pages of dissertation. But when did I start? Probably I started writing January of the year I graduated.
Wow.
Just small steps. Don't wait to be in the mood. I'm not in the mood to write. Just if it's 1 line that comes, put it down like that. So that was how I was able to start and complete it.
So what you're saying is that for somebody that is feeling overwhelmed, maybe such a person is at the writing stage and is feeling overwhelmed, would you say that such a person should take a consistent step of writing daily? Would you recommend that to such a person?
Yeah, the first thing I will say is, if the whole pressure becomes so much, rest. Take a rest. You know, that 1 minute pause does a lot of good. If you're so overwhelmed, it seems as if all hell has been let loose. Pause. Even if it means taking a walk in a park, do that. That 2 hours break you take is not what will stop you from completing your dissertation, but it will really help your mental health a lot. Even if it's watching soccer, watch people play, or you go play, just find something else to do that would keep you in a relaxed phase. Then you can now start making those small steps. It might not be consistent. There are days you just know I can't really get anything done today. You can use that day to plan, even if it's your outline, to look at your outline. Okay, what will I write in this chapter? Just that thought, even without writing, just the thought of what can I put down in this chapter? How will I bring in this data in this chapter? Just like that. So small steps are good. They could be consistent, but even when you have a pause, just stop and rest. Same approach I make towards work too. There are days in the job. I work as a research scientist at Daikin America. So when I know a particular day I've been exhausted, I've done so much, another day I could decide to pause, take a break, rest, then go back again. So when you're able to rest, refuel, recharge, go again, continue the cycle, you have a sane mind, because PhD is important, but your life is much, much, much important.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This is a very important aspect of our lives that as PhD students we often forget about, and that is our mental health. Especially, I think sometimes as international students, we may not be too aware or educated about that aspect of our lives. And I really appreciate you bringing this up, because, like you said, sometimes taking a stop and resting is what you would motivate you to, to continue and to make progress. Thank you. Okay. So I just want to ask you, there was something that you said when you're explaining the PhD. Now we're back to the academic. And you said that the first 2 years, it could be the most challenging, years of PhD. And what are the things that could happen, that could come up, that would make those 2 years to be challenging?
Okay. So one is you're in a new place. So the environment is one of that. Two is that at that first 2 years, that's when you get an advisor or a supervisor. At that point, two of you don't really know yourselves. So you're trying to prove to your supervisor that you're capable. You're trying to understand your professor, how they do research, how they want you to do research also. Then you're not really a PhD candidate. You're just a PhD student. You have to take your qualifier. So qualifying exam would mean, maybe 3 or 4 core courses. You'll be interviewed by several professors asking you questions from anywhere in that topic, which might throw one off balance if maybe you studied such and such material, but the interviewer can take a bottle, like my case, take a bottle of water and ask you what happens if you have this and this here. Applied knowledge. So all of that makes those first 2 years very challenging. But once you're breaking through that, you're now a PhD candidate, you are in the program. It tells you that your supervisor have accepted you 100%. The school has already accepted you too as a PhD candidate. Then you also have better idea on your research work. You've made, because those first 2 years is when you make a lot of mistake in research. We spent 5 years in PhD. I'm sure other PhD graduates will tell you that the first 2 years were probably filled with mistakes, learning and learning and learning, failing and getting up. Then the last 3 years might be where they have the core research. And for some people, it's even when they're about to graduate, they hit the kind of result they want and have a good story to tell. So that's why those first 2 years, the research probably is new to you, your supervisor is new to you, you still have to take your qualifying exams.
Yeah.
For some, you do proposal defense around that time too. For some, probably in your third or fourth year, you do a proposal defense. Yeah.
Wow. So to those that are in their second year and they're like, "Ooh, I'm not sure what I'm doing," you're saying, hang in there. It's part of the process. It's part of the discipline that PhD has to offer, right? Thank you very much. One question that I want to ask is, can you remember like a point in your PhD program, like you felt so excited and so happy, like the happiest time in your PhD program?
Yeah, the happiest time for me was after I had my defense.
Okay.
That was the happiest time. Even when I was giving the acknowledgements, I felt like crying, acknowledging people that have been helpful. So the whole emotion was really on me then. But when I also had my proposal defense, I think that was a good time. But final defense was really hit for me, and I felt fulfilled that I hit my target. Having my PhD program. When was the roughest time? Second year.
Wow.
Then had insomnia. And when I had insomnia, I wasn't sleeping right. Then my advisors became more demanding. So all the pressure was just coming together. And then my principal supervisor then was like, Chinedu, you can't do PhD, just do masters. I said, no, I already did masters from Nigeria, that I can do PhD is my dream. It was like, yes, you don't always get your dream. I said, no, I want. So I then was the most challenging. I just had to stick to my guns and say, yes, I can do this. And I also backed it up with work. So even though I was having insomnia, I started spending good time in the lab, getting results. And one thing I'll advise, I'll give other advice, but one thing for anyone doing a PhD program, it's the same thing I apply at my job. Never come to a meeting without data. You have a meeting with your advisor or your manager. Don't come without results. Don't come with evidence of work, without any evidence of work you did in the lab. Even if it's a one slide, one page slide, come with something. Don't just say, oh, the DSC broke down, I don't have any data, I did all. Come with something. Even if you measure with the scale, you have weight of your sample. Say, do you know I have this result? It weighs 20 grams. I left it for 4 hours. I came back, it now weighs 25 grams. His weight. Why somebody I sit up and say, wow. It becomes something you discuss.
Wow.
Just have something. Because it tells them you are putting in effort. Just putting in effort with something, even if it failed, even if for you, this data is not good data. You can learn from it. And when you share it with your supervisors, they will see what you don't see. They might say, oh, this might lead to something. I mean, who knows, a patent might even come out of such thoughts. So never come to a meeting with your advisor empty-handed and come and smile. No.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that advice. And for someone who's considering pursuing a PhD, what advice would you give such person?
Yeah, so my first advice would be, what is motivating you to pursue a PhD program? Because what motivates you to start is what will keep you going. Now, one of the statistics we have is that about 2% of the world population have a PhD. And 40 to 60% of people that start PhD drop out. That's attrition among PhD students. So not all that starts that finish. So what will keep you going, first of all, is what motivates you. So if you have the right motivator, then next thing is, don't be too rigid about your area of research. Don't say, oh, I'll prefer nanomaterials. It's only professor working with nanomaterials that I would like to work with. So don't be like that. Just have an open mind. So, as I was saying, one should have a fixed research in mind that is a topic I would like to work with. The important thing is, will I have a supervisor that will really be a mentor to me, that is willing to see me graduate? Because this high attrition rate among PhD students, I'm sure probably up to 60% will be the supervisor they work with. So one shouldn't be rigid about area of research. Fine, whatever research you want should be something that is interesting to you. It mustn't be what you want. Next thing is, you get into the school, the department, you ask questions. Oh, what is it like working with this supervisor? What is it like? Ask all the questions, interview different people. Then from what they tell you, now which of these supervisors have funding? That's another thing, because not all are funded. But that's not really a problem on its own. As long as the department has funding for you, you just be more like a teaching assistant, which is good. More of a teacher, which is okay. Those that have funding can be research assistants. So choosing the right supervisor is very, very important. Anybody that has the determination and ready to put in work can complete a PhD program. But with a supervisor that is difficult to please, even if you are Einstein or Aristotle, you might not finish. So I really advise, don't rush in picking a supervisor, and also the students to have a part to play. Be ready to put in the work. The 2% percentages, I tell you, those 2% were really willing to put in work. PhD involves work. My job, I can go to work on Monday, come back every day till weekends, Friday. I don't go to work on Saturday. I don't go to work on Sunday. On Saturday, I'm not thinking about the research I was doing at work. It doesn't even cross my mind as worry, all those worrying thoughts. But as a PhD student then, it wasn't so. You come back on Monday from the lab, you're still thinking, how will I do the next research for to continue on Tuesday? You get to Friday, you're not even thinking about weekend. You might run to the lab first thing in the morning. You see me Sunday morning, sometimes 6 a.m., 7 a.m., I'm going to check my results, my experiment every day. So a PhD will definitely bring out the best in you. It will stretch you. That's why it's a PhD degree, the highest degree in academia. It will stretch you. So be willing to put in the work. Be willing to do away with bad habits. Because a PhD student should be disciplined. You should be able to manage your time rightly. You should be able to plan yourself. No, okay, this is what my schedule for the week will be. This is how I intend going about this. Critical thinking also. Think and be thinking of what happens next. Now, if I'm taking PhD and I want to maybe be a postdoc after my program and go into lecturing, that's one part. Another part, if you want to be in the industry, what next? So if, let's say, I'm with a supervisor, let's assume, and you see that this your research work probably involves the use of one or two equipments, that's a bad sign for someone that wants to work in the industry. Because to get a job in the industry, they want to know the number of equipments you can operate and number of characterizations you can do. Very important. So if all I do in my research work is, say, maybe use the DSC, that's differential scanning calorimetry, that's all I do. If you see job openings, they might tell you they want some that can do scanning electron microscopy, melt flow rheology, that, and all what you have is just one.
It's just one.
And you have just that one in your resume. It becomes a challenge. But what will I do if I'm in a case like that? I'll look at what other PhD students around me are doing. I say, hey, you know how to use the instrument. You can measure mechanical properties. Please teach me. Let me learn that. Once you learn it, you mustn't be perfect in it. As long as you learned it, it enters your resume. For that lab, this person can do this, enters your resume. Someone tells you, oh, I'm working on this paper. You say, oh, how can I help?
Yeah.
By the time you learn to collaborate with people, ask the right questions, you might even get paper. They might say, okay, please help me in reviewing this paper. You do your name gets in there. That's how you see some people with 20 journals. They didn't write everything. Some of them, they can run one test for you and they'll say, oh, my name should be in that paper. That's what for someone that wants to be in the industry, you don't have to have 10 papers. Even if it's one or two, at least you can run equipment well, think logically, critically. It will be so easy to get a job in the industry. But if it's to be a postdoc, then those papers will count, and not just papers. You be in high impact papers, high impact journals. So it just depends also what route am I taking after my program.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Okeke. This is a very well thought out advice that you have just given to prospective PhD students and applicants. So thank you so much for your time and for this advice. We really appreciate it. So I want to ask, when you were giving us your bio, you mentioned that people would call you Prof when you were quite young. What is the plan for that? Now you work in the industry. Is there anything in the future? Do you see yourself in the future still bagging that Prof before your name?
Yes, I do have that in mind.
Okay.
But that will be after some time, after some years. Why is that so? Because there is big difference between a professor that has worked in the industry and one that has never worked in the industry, because that's a major challenge now. You find some schools doing research that has no connection with the industry, just doing research, publishing papers, but you cannot apply it to life, to what's happening in the society. Like in the industry, we look at, what is the critical to quality, the CTQs. We look at, I want to make a polymer blend I'll use for 5G applications. what do I need, and all those thoughts. But industry might just, lab work in school might just be something that sounds so interesting, but no real commercial value to it. A research where your product from that research, let's say, will cost $1,000 per pound, for example. That's the product of that research. Then there is a competing product, very good, gives the same result like what you are doing in the lab, but it sells for $10 per pound.
Wow.
So that tells you nobody would pay $1,000 for something that is at par with every other competitor product. So that's really the divide you're finding between academia and industry. So for me, being in the industry for some time, I must have gained a lot of knowledge. And I tell you, bulk of what I do in my present role is so similar to what I did in my PhD program. So similar.
Wow.
The same equipment I run, then same. So it wasn't challenging for me to just fit in. Effortlessly. So I was able to keen into that. So I do have an eye for academia. But I am more into teaching because I have spent most of my career has been in teaching than in any other occupation. So teaching is something I intend later in future. I don't know about research work because I want to have my weekend to myself. I don't want to be thinking about lab results, how to get funding for this and that. But it's fine going to class, lecturing, go back home, relax, grade papers. But that'll be something for the future.
In the future. That's great.
Current employer, that.
I know, right? But just hearing you say this, I'm sure it is very inspiring, really, because people like you are like the resources that we would be needing for our educational system in the world, to improve, because you've seen both worlds, the academia and industry, and you would fit in anyway. And yes, I think your plans for the future are inspiring, and we are looking forward to great things that you're going to fulfill and achieve in your career. Thank you so much for being in this interview, for accepting to participate in this. I'm sure our listeners, our viewers are really inspired, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors and in your future. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm honored to be here. And if there is any PhD student or candidate that needs someone to talk to, I'm really open. You're free to share my phone number, email.
Thank you. We will do that.
I'm really glad to help.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. On this note, we have come to the end of today's episode. Thank you, and hope to see you in the next episode. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.